Question about their construction schedule. We're anticipating the various construction plans that they need to build that to be submitted this spring, early summer. So we could see vertical construction of the building perhaps by the end of the year. And then with their completion perhaps in the summer of 2017. The financing that they secured was through a program that's referred to as the 9% federal tax credit. So there is a very, very high percentage of the number of units available that there will be certain income thresholds that have to be met. I don't remember, Ms. Kitchell, what those thresholds were. Yeah, so it's all designed to keep those rental rates more affordable. If you would like more specific information, after the meeting I'll give you a card and I'll provide you with all the detailed information and respond to any other questions you might have on it.
I've got one more question about the expressway. Is there going to be an access to 360 North? You can't, now you have to go halfway to Arlington or Irving and turn around and come back.
There will be access. It will, I would tell you, it's not going to be improved over what it is today. So it will be very, very similar to what there is today. And that is something that was talked about at length. And as this project has been talked about, the city tried to play a role in suggesting, if you will, different things. But they're not going to have any different access to 360 than there is today.
Well, that development over there is going to be cut off.
And that developer has again also tried to influence that piece, but it gets a little bit into that. I think the answer that you remember I talked about on the interim and the ultimate design. In that interim design, there is no what I would call improved access. It doesn't get any worse than it is today, but it does not get any better. Mr. Reed.
Yeah, I'd like to go to the financing of the Midtown, US Midtown. Just this last city council meeting, or within two, we approved certificate of obligations up to 16 point, almost $5 million. And a couple months ago, we approved a $2.7 million 380 grant. Is that $2.7 million included as part of that $16.5 million, or is that totally separate?
Those are separate.
So how do we recoup the money on the 380 money? I know in the 16.5 we're going to do the TERS and the PID, but the 380 is just outright grant, is that right?
The 380 is a grant, and the way the agreement is structured is that if they perform and build at least 75% of the project and achieve the taxable values that they are estimating that they'll achieve, then there's no repayment. If they do not achieve that, then they would have to repay that money.
Is there any additional expected 380 grants? The little letter I have from the developer that was submitted to you includes about another $8 million of 380 grants.
There is no additional grant funding or any other funding other than what has been already discussed publicly for this project. And that project is structured in exactly the same way as we discussed with Glade Parks. Again, this is a 56-acre development. It requires substantial storm drain and water retention in that area. You might know that they're getting all of the water runoff from basically the 183 area, and there's lots of drainage to be retained in there. There's also the water, the wastewater, the road network, and so forth. And so this was structured in exactly the same way, in that the developers requested that a PID be placed upon that property, and that anyone who purchases or buys within that would be assessed a PID levy, and those property owners would pay for the debt service related to those improvements. And then there's also a TERS created for that as well. And again, those PID levies only apply to the parcel outlined in that map, and no other taxpayer within the city would be levied that PID assessment. And a PID, the mayor asked that I explain that, that's a public improvement district. And basically what it's created for is an understanding or recognition that those public improvements can be paid for by the folks that are benefiting. And so for that particular parcel and all of those properties within that parcel, they are agreeing and requesting a levy to allow them to pay that on an annual installment, and that would basically be applied to each of those properties.
And if I could add something on that, this was a much more difficult project to approve from a city council standpoint, at least in my opinion, just speaking for myself here. The Glade Parks was a no-brainer. I mean, obviously, retail, money on the ground, it's no real hard problem to approve that one whatsoever. This one was a little tougher because what we had, number one, we want to try and revitalize South Euless. Everything, all the other developments had been North Euless. We had a number of apartment complexes that were really substandard living. But yeah, as a city, to try and go through amortization and eliminate those, extremely costly, a lot of legal fees, things that we didn't want to get involved in. But a developer saw the potential for this land and decided that if they could work partnership with us, we could get this developed and improve South Euless. We had on the books for years, as Mr. Easton will attest, a $10 million earmark for drainage in that area that we felt, and then that was just an earmark. There had no real studies done about how much it was going to cost to fix the drainage in that area. If you look at what the money that we are having the certificates of obligation for, a huge portion of that is for the drainage. When this development is done, and I don't know, Mike, if you had any slides for this or not, but there will be retention ponds and detention ponds, and don't ask me what either one of those mean. I just know they're bodies of water that will take this drainage, and then we'll have restaurants and retail around that, along with walking trails, etc. And then there'll be quite a bit of upscale residential, all different types of residential actually, about every different type you can imagine, townhome, apartments, single family, row houses. I mean, it's going to be an amazing development. And it's now the gateway to South Euless, where we can now continue developing down Highway 10. So, and plus it pays for itself. Now, it doesn't pay for itself as monumentally as Glade Parks does, but it does pay for itself. There is a return on investment, and the city and the other taxing entities all looked at the numbers and realized that it absolutely pays for itself, and that it improves our city, and it gives us a gateway to improve the Highway 10 corridor.
Okay, I think we've come to that part of the evening. Oh. You're going to apologize about turning the lights off on everybody?
Sorry about that.
No. I'm just kidding.
On the question of the revitalization of South Euless, when it comes to the Midtown development, are we looking at any short-term effects to the nearby already existing residential areas, such as Ridgecrest, Shepherd Drive, that area? Or is that for a longer term?
No, so this development does not do anything to, I'm sorry, the question was would this cause any impact to the residential that is just to the east of that, Ridgecrest, and there is no impact to the Ridgecrest or any of the residential homes. The boundaries of this are very clearly within that map and do not touch those other areas.
Now, is the water usage of that area going to be affected by the ponds and the other aquatic features of the development, or is that all going to be a citywide?
That's all drainage water.
Yeah. No, that water, to my knowledge, there's no intent to pull any of that water from those drainage. It's simply to make sure that that does not impact downstream as the stormwater flows down.
And you're kind of a young man, but for those of us that are older, we've seen those apartments that are on the other side of 10 and that office building and their parking lot used to flood on a regular basis because of the amount of stormwater that would come through. And the hope is that it, number one, improves that side, but it absolutely would improve downstream also. And we come to that part of the evening now that it is just open for any polite questions that you may have. So, Helen, hey, let us get a mic, please.
I don't need one. Are we going to be at H3?
Are we gonna get HEB? Her question is, we getting an HEB? Oh, you're talking grocery store. I was fixing to say, haven't we got an HEB school this year? I was a little confused there. I graduated from it, but, Mr. Collins.
The area that Ms. Voss is making reference to is south of the Glade Parks development that we talked about, but on the north side of what is Cheeksburger, right? Mid-Cities is on the east side, as it's in that area of Bedford, it's Cheeksburger. On the north side there, HEB Grocer LLC has filed a deed of record in Tarrant County to have bought land at that area. But they've given us absolutely no indication of a time frame that they would be submitting a site plan for development. So short answer, Helen, we don't know. But they bought some land.
So could you go to Mr. Butts and ask him to please do it? Because we love HEB.
Yes, ma'am, the mayor will leave the meeting after this and get right on that.
If you didn't hear, her question was, could we go to the owner of HEB and just ask him to go ahead and build it? So,
Let me call it. That'd be great.
anybody else? Young man right here.
I was wondering if y'all could consider a basketball court on Bob Eden Park.
Thank you, young crooks, for the question. Before I get started,
Not a young crook.
I have to acknowledge my friend Colton, who accidentally turned out the lights on y'all. I've known him since he was just a little guy. I coached him in football and baseball. I almost felt like I was cheating because when you needed a touchdown, you gave the ball to Colton, nobody could catch him. He scored so many touchdowns, but this young man's getting ready to graduate and he's going to enlist in the U.S. Navy. Colton, thank you. Now to address your question, young crooks. We, in fact, I just spoke with Ms. Getchell today. We are about to engage a planning firm, park planning firm, to do a study of not only Bob Eden, but eventually all of our parks, and develop a needs assessment. And as part of that process, they will look at what we currently have in our park system, what we think we might need in our park system in the future. Mr. Collins just showed you some outstanding developments. Obviously, our population is going to increase, our demographics are going to change. We need to make sure as a Parks Department that we're going to meet those needs in the future. So as part of that study, it may not only reveal that we need basketball courts in Bob Eden, it may reveal that we need much more than just basketball courts in Bob Eden. So hopefully, maybe next year at the town hall meeting, I'll be able to have a much more thorough report of the findings of that. But the bottom line is it's exciting that we're being able to look at this to see what we can do in our park system in the future, and I hope I have some great things to report to you. Thanks for the question.
Gentleman right here. Go ahead.
Along with community activities, I'd like to submit that we put together like a Trinity dance club of some sort where families, youth can come out and socialize, dance, karaoke, something of that nature, nonprofit, something for the community.
We'll make note of that. So, the lady on the back row first. We got Mike coming to you. Which one gets there first? It's Rocky.
Who's gonna fight for me? Oh, so I guess you guys think I'm gonna talk about cats and not. So, 2 questions. First, I'd like to know, with all the development going along 183, what is the plan for Arbor Days? 2, did you guys consider a sidewalk along 157 between Bob Eden down to the high school? I run in the city, so I literally will run from South Euless all the way up to Glade and all the way back. By the way, that's 10 miles. And it gets a little hairy on 157 when I'm trying to come up that way. Use stumps, use dead brush, and things get in the way. I would love a sidewalk. All right.
Which is like Lynn Drive and all of that, right?
Yeah.
Who would like to, let's start with,
Yes, ma'am. And I guess real quickly to go back to your question, Chief Brown informed me that they have karaoke every Tuesday night at the fire stations. come on down.
What's the attendance for that, please? Who shows up?
It'll be 1 if you show up.
That's what I was afraid of.
More than they had last week.
Nobody runs to the firehouse for a dance.
Arbor Days. Mark on your calendar, April the 30th from 9 a.m., no, scratch that, 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. We're going to go a little different route this year. Mr. Barker told you about what's going on 183. There will also be a project going on here at City Hall that is really going to kind of disrupt what we have come to know as Arbor Days the last few years here on the campus. So it's kind of gone full circle, Mr. Hogg. When you started this thing at the Midway Rec Center some, 26 or some odd years ago, we're moving it back to Midway this year because of what's going to be going on here on the campus. So April the 30th, we're going to move it back to Midway. It's going to be a one-day festival, all day on a Saturday. Basically what you've had at Arbor Days in the past, but on a much, much smaller scale. We're still going to have the concession vendors. We're still going to have the tree giveaway. I just talked to our carnival provider yesterday, trying to work out an area to have some carnival rides. We'll have everything for the kids that we normally have had by the Kids Zone. Going to have the concerts that are going to take place as well. So it'll be like what we've known in the past, and way in the past, but again at Midway Park. So April the 30th, 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. More information coming out in your playbooks.
We'll get to your sidewalk. Hey, we still got a sidewalk question we got to answer. Before I tell you that, he's talking about full circle, started at Midway, going back to Midway. Dixie Chicks were some of the earliest ones. It's been long enough now that they're fixing to be the old Dixie Chicks, and they'll be able to come back. So I'm waiting for that. Are you going to address the sidewalk question?
The sidewalk question is a good one. A couple of things there. Number one, FM 157 is a state highway, on the state system, so we will need to coordinate any type of improvements with the state. Doesn't mean that it can't be done. It just means that we have to do a little bit extra, an extra step, if you will, coordinating that with the state. In general, sidewalks are built throughout the city as property developed. So the city has an ordinance, a development standard, that as a property is developed, then that property owner puts in the sidewalk. So what that will lead to, and if you think about 157, is where you have development, you have a sidewalk, and you'll come to an undeveloped lot, and so it's hodgepodge. So we try to look in those areas. I mean, I will tell you that in general, we are trying to have that put in with the development. Sometimes we look at an area and say, and I guess my example might be Harwood Road and close to 157, where we had sidewalk on the north side of Harwood, or literally the entire length from Main Street down to the Quick Trip there at 157, but there was a single undeveloped lot that did not have a sidewalk, and we had several citizens that brought that to the city's attention, and it took a little bit of time, but we looked at that and were able to put a sidewalk there, because in that case, most everything developed, and there was literally just one spot that hadn't, and it made sense to complete that sidewalk, if you will. So I will tell you that we will look at it. The other thing I'll tell you about sidewalks is we tend to prioritize some money that the council set aside every year for sidewalks into a couple of different buckets. We have some obviously ongoing maintenance. Sidewalks tend to pitch and heave, and we don't want to have trip hazards. So we have a small amount, I shouldn't say small, we have a smaller amount of money that we take what I would call sidewalk maintenance. Then we have some money in which we're looking at putting in new sidewalks, and that's prioritized a couple of different ways. Number one, we tend to prioritize those away. If you look at a school, particularly an elementary school, and move out in a circle from that, we're tending to prioritize to provide, in essence, a safe route to school through those sidewalk monies there. And then the second piece would be, again, going back to my Harwood Road example, is there a place where it just makes sense that it's such a short gap or distance that we could go put a sidewalk and complete a much longer stretch. So 157 is a very obviously long stretch, and I won't tell you that it's not a good place, and we don't need to do it. It's just going to be down to a matter of priority.
What I was going to indicate.
Hang on a second. Let me echo that. And this kind of goes along with your karaoke swing dance night time. 23, 24 years ago, citizens at these town halls started talking about wanting a water park. It took a while, but folks eventually had a water park. Keep bringing it up. We'll keep trying to serve you the best we can. You had a follow-up?
I just wanted to say I've noticed an increase in walking traffic between Bob Eden and Harwood and Ash in that area. It's almost dangerous because they are having to walk in the street. And I'm really concerned about that. I have children in the area, and so I wonder sometimes with the speed limit that is on 157, people tend to go a little bit faster. So.
We'll absolutely take a look at it. That's a very good point. I will tell you, and I'll brag on Ray over here a little bit, and I don't mean this in place of the sidewalk, because we absolutely will take a look at that. But if you're familiar with our Trails of Euless system, where you can get on a trail at basically what I'm going to call 360 in the Villages Park, and go all the way currently to FM 157 on a trail network.
Yeah, that's
that,
5 miles, by the way.
so you are familiar. And I like that because you don't have to cross, with the exception of Bear Creek Parkway, all your ag-grade crossings are below grade. There is you want to talk a little bit about the Trails of Euless project and what's going to happen for the extension of the Trails of Euless?
Yes, sir. Sure can. I think Mr. Collins will help me with the slide here. What Mr. Barker is referring to is a grant that we were awarded, probably about 15, 16 months ago from the Texas Department of Transportation through the Federal Highway Administration. It is about $1 million grant, and it will continue our Trails of Euless project that he talked about there at Bob Eden, where it currently terminates just south of Creekside. If you know where that is, it's on the north side of Mid-Cities. The trail from Bob Eden goes under the bridge and terminates there. It will pick up there, and I don't know, Mr. Collins, we don't have a way to actually identify where that will be, do we? But it will pick up there. It will go under the 157, 121 service roads, the north-southbound service roads, 121 itself. It will come out there on the west side in the southern portion here of the Glade Parks development, and will meander through that development and join with Heritage. Is that right, Mr. Collins? Heritage Parkway or Heritage Road, so that it will ultimately connect to Colleyville and their trail system, which ultimately connects to Grapevine and their trail system, which follows Highway 26 and will eventually go all the way down to Trinity Park in Fort Worth. We were hoping that the project would be let early this year. We are having to do some environmental studies that is a requirement, but through the process they didn't tell us we were going to have to do this, and then they told us that we need to do this, and so we went from being at the front of the line now to about the middle of the line. So what we had hoped we would be able to start early this year, now it looks like we're not going to be able to start this project until maybe July. Once the project's let, it's a trail. It's a concrete 8-foot wide trail. It's not going to be a difficult project to construct, so it shouldn't take a lot of time to construct it. Hopefully by next year's town hall it will be there and we'll be enjoying it and using that. But as Mr. Parker said, it will continue. So now you'll be able to go from Colleyville to 360 through this development and our trail system without ever having to cross. So Ms. Voss, I don't know if that's going to take care of the traffic problem, and because if it does, they're all parking in Trailwood, and those of you who live there probably won't like that. But we hope that it gets lots of use and from our citizens to that development. As Mr. Barker said, he used to love riding his bikes with his family up to the Lowe's development so they could get ice cream at TCBY. So it didn't really make a lot of sense why you would ride your bike to go get ice cream, but he went to A&M.
All right, now, in the interest of trying to move on. Number one, what other city council member would get up and pretend to be Man of White? Because I can reach it. And we got to give him a big applause. I don't know if you believe it. Thank you very much for that. Jerry, you grab that mic. I think you've been holding it hostage for a while now. Go ahead.
This is for Ray. It's about the rec center, and I first want to say how much I love the Family Life Center. But it seems to be for the typical working adult, your choices for a workout class are Mondays and Wednesdays, because Tuesdays and Thursdays are all dance classes. Is there any consideration being given to maybe flip-flop in a couple of classes so that somebody could take more than one class a week?
Our department wanted their dance class on Tuesday nights to coincide with their fire hall karaoke night, so. Good, I'm sorry, Wes. I love you, man. It's interesting that you brought that up because that's the second time I've heard that in as many weeks. So we intend to look at that and to see if not only on alternate days, but also times. We also understand that there are a lot of stay-home moms that would like some classes earlier in the day. We do have the cardio theater. Don't know how many of you know about that, but as you walk into the recreation center side of that Family Life Center, you immediately go to the left through the double doors. There's an alternate workout room. And cardio theater is a program, is a video program where you can do any number, literally hundreds of different types of workouts, and you have a virtual instructor. They're not very nice, but you do have a virtual instructor that will lead you through the class, and it is everything from spin bike classes to aerobic type exercises to even some weight lifting type Tabata type workouts. It's really, really cool if you've ever done that. We've seen a lot of those virtual workouts in hotels. And it started coming to rec centers, and we wanted to get on the front end of that. So if you're interested in something like that, anytime that room is not programmed and already used, you're more than welcome to go in and just touch the screen and pick any number. Literally, there's a library of over 100 different types of workouts. But Jerry, we will continue to look for opportunities for other classes and programs. And in fact, that's how our classes and programs survive, is from folks who come to us with ideas. A lot of the instructors are folks who came to us with ideas. So whether it's an idea for a class or if you want to teach a class, we can absolutely take care of that as well, but we will absolutely look for that opportunity to expand our class offering.
In the interest of time, there are no more questions to Mr. Barker or Mr. McDonald. Mr. Barker's going to beat himself dead. He can't talk without moving his hands, so to try to hold that mic, he's going to knock a tooth out before the night's over. Yes, ma'am. Can you get a mic to her? No? Yes, no? Oh, I'm sorry. We got a lady back here that's got the mic. Go ahead, ma'am. I'm sorry. I didn't see.
I want to know when the Historic Heritage Museum will open.
Well, I can't hear down here.
Historical museum.
What I want to know is on Euless Boulevard. I want to know when the Historic Heritage Museum will open.
When does the Euless Heritage Museum open?
Yeah.
Well, it's been open. Have you visited? Or, I'm sorry?
It's a new one?
Well, it's not real new, but it may be new to a lot of people in the room. In fact, Mariopha helps us supervise that museum. She works with the historical committee on that project. It's the second Saturday of every month from 1 to 5. It will be open. And we have docents there that will lead you through that entire park and explain and probably spend more time than Mr. Barker or I could with you explaining everything that's in that room.
All right. Good.
With all the construction that's going on in Euless and we're growing astronomically, it seems like there's going to be a lot more traffic and a lot more people. And that's going to put a lot of pressure on our police department and our fire department. I was wondering if there's any plans to grow both, or what we're gonna do about it.